Hello all, I'm Chickenly and welcome to this week's manga review. I kind of apologize for not being up to date. Kind of been lacking on my reviews. There was some that I just was not feeling well that week, or I just wasn't really on top of things. So I apologize for that. But I'm back for this week. We only have 2 chapters for this week. We have Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So Chainsaw Man chapter 103. This contains the ending of the last chapter where Denji came back into the story. He defeated the Bat Devil and saved a cat. And so we get to see more of that. So I find it really cool how this chapter shows more of kind of a world building, how the world views Chainsaw Man. There's people that adore him. There's people that think he's a monster. There's some people think that he is taking jobs, that he shouldn't be allowed to do this, that he's a devil, or that he's going to eat cats. And I think it's just really interesting to see how all these different people feel about Chainsaw Man. And then finally we get to interview with Denji, where he is literally just talking about like, Chainsaw Man's pretty cool. I wouldn't know the guy, but like he's a really cool guy and super in character, really funny. I'm glad to have Denji back. It's a lot of fun seeing him. Earlier in the chapter, this girl was like gonna give out her number, and so Denji's like, I don't know Chainsaw Man, but if I had to guess, his number would be. So yeah, and so as the crowd is chanting Chainsaw Man, he's kind of standing there all proud. Yoshida eventually comes in and is like, hey Denji, we should talk. And I think this is a great point because I saw this on TikTok where someone was talking about how Denji is kind of displaying Power's like personality a little bit, like with his line of like, how do you know my name? And just the way he's acting is very Powerish, and it's so funny. But eventually they go out to talk at like this diner or restaurant or something. And of course, Denji's ordering all these sweets, all this food. They get to talking, and Yoshida's like, yeah, I might be stalking you a little bit. I'm part of this organization. We're nothing evil or anything. We're just making sure that you're going to live a peaceful life, and we just make sure that you're not going to out yourself. Denji asks, like, what's going to happen if people find out his identity, and Yoshida doesn't really answer him. He kind of teases him with like, I'm not going to let you eat this cake or any of the other food you just ordered. But what really displays Denji's character is that he just doesn't fucking give a shit. He'll eat with his hands. So Yoshida kind of questions him. He's like, why are you even like, doing this stuff? You're not getting paid for it. And Denji kind of answers like, yeah, well, I kind of just want people to find out that I'm Chainsaw Man. Of course, he answers with like, why he wants to is because he wants to get all the numbers of girls. And Yoshida kind of ponders that. He's like caught off guard by it, and the chapter ends there. Funny chapter, great world building with the interview asking people what they think of Chainsaw Man, building more of that character of what were to happen if Denji's identity were to be revealed. How would people treat him? How would the world see Denji and Chainsaw Man? So yeah, pretty good chapter. I think that it is going bi-weekly now, so I don't think there's going to be another chapter next week. Next, we have Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 196. So this picks up from last chapter where a katana guy and a sumo guy came in. And so the sumo guy is going to put a domain on Maki. And I think it's kind of weird that this chapter is like they're in the middle of a fight with Naoya, who has been kicking their asses relentlessly. And we kind of have like this side fight out of nowhere. And I think it's kind of odd, but it's a good chapter for Maki's development, to learn more about what she's doing wrong, how she can improve her strength. So the sumo guy kind of comes in and acts like a teacher of sorts. So she agrees to his challenge, and then she is beaten. And so she needs to just figure out what she's doing wrong. And so this sumo guy kind of acts like a teacher to her. And even in the chapter, Maki's like, there was no one really that she looked up to as a teacher. It's not that she wanted to refuse help or she was too prideful. She just never considered growing stronger by relying on others. So this sumo match kind of acts like a teaching lesson where the sumo guy's like, you have to learn about your opponent. You have to communicate with them. You have to let yourself be captive to it because you can learn from it. You have to go outside of your environment to learn more about yourself. And once you finally learn everything about yourself and your opponent, then you can truly become powerful. It allows you to be free, as he says. And so Maki finally gets it, and so she finally beats the sumo guy. And well, I'm glad for Maki development. it kind of feels weird to have it in this chapter. It's just kind of interesting to have this chapter in here in the middle of this very dangerous fight. It's also kind of odd that it's just this random character that just came into the story now. I think it's a good chapter. I just think it's kind of oddly placed. I feel like this should have happened after the fight, or if it were to happen in the fight, it should have been a more defined character that came in, not just a random side character. Or maybe that's just what Maki needed. I'm not sure. But there's no break next week, so we'll have another Jujutsu Kaisen chapter next week. Hopefully this means Maki is able to get back her katana and is able to fully wield it to its fullest potential. Finally being able to beat Naoya or something. If I had to guess, if she doesn't beat him next chapter, it's going to be the chapter after that. And we'll continue on with the Culling games. Hopefully Yuji will come back or something. I miss my boy, you know. So yeah. Anyway, that's the only 2 chapters. There was no Vinland, and One Piece was on break, so unfortunately no chapters for either one of those. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next week, hopefully.